Chris and Ari, I'd love to hear your opinion on, as like leaders of your companies, what it looks like to use data to make decisions from like a higher level perspective, or making sure as like a leader you're using data to drive your initiatives.
Chris, do you want to go?
Sure. So I think as a leader, I mean, one of the most important things that I can do is hire people who appreciate and understand data. And so when we're interviewing people, we're looking for people who have done data analysis in their schoolwork or in honestly, even in their personal life. I interviewed an interesting guy recently who was a gamer and had put this spreadsheet together to help him think about a game that he was building. So I want to know, I want to see people who love working in Excel, and I love it when, or Sheets, and I love it when candidates have sort of a mix of left brain and right brain sort of things, like Ari's background of mechanical engineering, and here you are in UX. That's really fascinating. The other thing about building a data-driven organization is that we're constantly evolving and trying to develop new data-driven ways of doing things. And so by example, in how we're analyzing our own work and the work we do on behalf of clients, we're saying, hey, what metric could we use to be measuring ourselves? Is that a metric? And then let's try it out for a little while. And does it actually measure what we thought it would measure? Does it actually result in the behavior that we're trying to change? And if it doesn't, we throw it out. So we've gone, for example, when we try and look at SEO quality, we thought, oh, you know what, we can come up with a metric that really helps us understand how we're doing at improving our SEO for clients. And we came up with all this complex stuff, so complex that only the person who designed it could actually use it. Which was a problem over time. And so gradually we've evolved and we said, okay, that's not going to work. Let's try this. Let's try this. And I think that's important because people think that there's a single answer and there's not. Like the exploration of what to collect and how, and what the balance of time investment on collecting data versus what you get out of it is all really important in deciding what data you use to make decisions, to run a business, to run a project. Yeah, and we use Google Analytics a lot, since a lot of what we're doing is the goal of the traffic we're trying to help clients acquire for their websites is to get to the website and actually purchase or become a lead. We use Google Analytics as the main way of looking at how people are interacting with websites and telling customers about how well their website is working and what kind of traffic quality they're getting. We use the ad management tools, Facebook and Google Ads, data from that directly. We love to be able to extract the data and pull it into different things and analyze it. One of the tools that we use from a marketing perspective that's really handy is called Supermetrics, and it basically provides an interface between all of those different ad platforms and Google Analytics and Pinterest and on and on and on, and allows you to pull it straight into Google Sheets, set that up on a schedule to update daily or monthly or whatever you need. So that's super useful. We've also started pulling data into BigQuery, which is a Google product. It's a free database product, so that we can combine the data in more interesting ways and output it to Data Studio. So we use Google Data Studio a lot for visualizing the data. It looks like Phil does too. It's also free and really pretty easy to pull in data sources, combine data sources, and create visualizations of them that update all the time once you have new data. Yeah, I think that the theme of you need to have a goal first, right? Know what you're going for is something we're going to come back to time and time again, because that's really important. So I just wanted to underline that before I pivot to another common sense thing I think we need to think about, which is that we can be really full of zest for this idea of being data driven. and the time, and fall into a black hole of time investment of looking for that data, of constructing that data, of trying to pull a data picture together, that really exceeds the value that you're getting out of whatever metric you're going to come up with. And I'll give you an example. We've been doing this for 10 years, so I got lots of examples of learning. But so I'll give you an example, and that is that we wanted to identify or think about how could we identify SEM accounts that weren't running well, so that we could highlight them for evaluation and improvement. Well, you know, again, we're thinking, oh, well, we'll pull the data from here and here, but it might break. And if it breaks, how would we? I mean, you just go down this rabbit hole, and then you're like, well, but if it's this figure and it's this figure, it doesn't mean the same thing if it's this figure by itself. And all of a sudden we've spent, you know, you've got 4 people in a room for an hour. That's 4 hours of time. And if we had just gone sort of, hey, let's look at this account and see what we could improve in this account, we would have had better outcomes, because we would have had those 4 hours spent to actually improving, working on the campaigns, instead of like, how can we identify the campaigns that we might want to work on? So just, I think, asking yourself the question of the time investment involved in getting to the answer, is that really better than the gut feeling of the answer that I might want to go on? And if I know something needs to be improved, do I really need to know how much it needs to be improved before I start improving it? Or should I just improve it? Right. Another thing, another trap that you can fall into is, if you want to use data to make decisions, assuming that the data that you can collect is all the data that there is, right? When in fact, and this is really true for digital marketing, in fact, there are holes in your data. So the attribution modeling, which is the idea of, or attribution, which is the idea of which marketing channel produced that purchase, that is not something that you can accurately track one-to-one, right? Like, we can make assumptions, we can look at trends and data, but you can't track it one-to-one. And yet, because we love data and we want to make data-driven decisions, we pretend like we have all the answers right in front of us, and that clearly points to the right direction. Instead of sort of, you really have to be a little bit comfortable and acknowledge, not forget, that there are some things that aren't measurable in that need to go into the decisions that you're making. And I, as a marketer, think about the guy, the person who makes the decision to buy a TV ad. That is such a big leap of faith for me, because you don't have that data at all. And yet there are hundreds of people across the country, business owners, who have made that decision and had successful outcomes because of it. And collect the data that answers your question, right? Like an engineer made that decision. An engineer said, hey, you know, every mouse or over, we can capture that. Let's capture that, right? But if it's not, I mean, why do that? You're collecting a ton of data, creating a ton of noise that is not answering a specific question. So you got to start out, what is your question? What are you trying to answer? And then what data might contribute to helping you answer that?
How about you? Or Chris, go ahead. I saw you just went off mute. Then we'll go to you.
Yeah, I'll just, I mean, these are very marketing specific, but you know, Google has free training available for Google Analytics. So that's something that if you want to dig into it more, you can. And the other thing that's interesting about Google Analytics is that you can get access to the Google Analytics account for the Google merchandise store. So if you're like, oh, I'm getting started, but I don't have access to anything, how can I play around with how to use it? That's a really great resource for how to use that. And I'll find that and put it in the chat. And see how when all the features in Google Analytics are set up accurately, what they look like and what kind of data they can bring back for you.